Welcome to the Women Leaders Association Daily Member Podcast, where we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. I'm your host, Julianne Kirkland. And in each Daily Member Podcast, we will pick out a great speaker from one of our meetings that we thought you would enjoy. You can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. If you would like to get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or find a networking group near you, or if you just need access to the membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Now let's tune in for this incredible message.
My name is Davida Jackson. I've been working in digital marketing for the past 10 years plus, living in Charlotte for the past 10 years plus as well. I run the digital marketing department for a cybersecurity firm based in Tampa, Florida. Awesome. We're ready to go. So, and also I think that's kind of the perfect introduction to my presentation, because what I wanted us to do, right? And this happens in our life, and it's the reason why a lot of us may struggle with imposter syndrome, because of things like this, right? You don't want to see when we get frazzled or real life happens. You want to kind of hide behind our mask a little bit. And so before I started my presentation, I did want to ask everyone who feels comfortable, as I have turned my video off. You can see me. For those that feel comfortable, and you don't have to do it the whole time I'm presenting, but if right now, if you feel led, can we see everyone's faces? Okay. And the reason why I wanted to start the presentation off right now with that is because sometimes we put our mask on at work, right? And you need to, in a sense, right? Like Rachel talked about before with personal branding, like you have to put on some sort of face. But a lot of times women, especially working in corporate America, we don't show our full authentic selves in a way that is great for our role, for relationship building and things of that nature. So I wanted everyone to kind of see each other. We know at the top of the screen, you can easily kind of scroll through, say hi, give a smile. And also we're going to be talking about some things that are a little bit heavy when it comes to fear, when it comes to doubt. And these are things that I've struggled with and I've had to overcome. And I'll talk to you a little bit about my background and why that is so important, how that impacted me. Okay. So for right now, I just want us to take 3 simple breaths, right? We're all, since COVID, everybody's company's done the wellness and the yoga and things of that nature. So I know you're probably used to it. So if you can, I just want you to put your feet on the ground. Okay. I have my feet on the ground. I want you to put your hands in your lap. All right. And we're just going to take 3 breaths. That's it. And we're going to calm ourselves down, because I was a little nervous, right? With my slides and everything, and the moment of silence, awkward. Okay. So I want us to thank you. And thank you. I so appreciate everyone that's doing this. Okay. So we're just going to take some deep breaths in through the nose. Out through the nose. Calm ourselves down. You can close your eyes too. I like to do that. In through the nose. Out through the nose. For our last breath, we're going to go out through our mouth, right? In through the nose, out through the mouth. Yes, even I feel a little bit of nervousness, right? And I do this. So thank you. And if you want to continue to keep your video on, you can. And give a smile. But yes, just wanted to see everyone. I love seeing everyone's beautiful faces. And the reason why I said that is because I come from a line of trailblazers. And me, myself, it's Women's History Month, right? So happy Women's History Month. I was a news producer when I started my career, and I was the first Black news producer that KWQC in Davenport, Iowa ever had in their 50 years of being on air. I was the first. And this was in the 2000s. Isn't that crazy? My grandfather started a newspaper called the Indiana Herald newspaper in Indiana, right? He bought that, the first. My grandmother, his wife, was one of the first Black women to graduate from college in the state of Mississippi, right? The first. My grandfather hung out with the likes of Madam C.J. Walker, an old family friend. Crazy, right? So I come from a line of trailblazers. I have trailblazed in my career in digital marketing. I've had many positions where I'm the first ever to sit in positions. Positions were created for me just because of my knowledge and expertise. And I don't say that to brag. I say that because a lot of us kind of deal with familiar situations, or we kind of deal with situations where we're just struggling to prove ourselves. Just being a woman, regardless if you came from an amazing background or not, or regardless of your economic status or your race, just being a woman sometimes is enough to make you want to just have to prove yourself, right? And with that comes pressure. And with pressure becomes a thing called the imposter syndrome, right? So we're going to get into that and whether that is really fact or fantasy, okay? And I'm going to get into changing the screen because again, I don't know. Hold on. I don't know everything, but sometimes I'm gonna have to breathe again, guys. Woo! Thank you, because that is so. What? Let's go into what is imposter syndrome, right? Because things like this can really knock you off your rocker. But I'm glad again it's happening because it's things that happen to us all the time, and it's about stories, right? So let's just picture this because we're kind of gonna go off of topic for a little bit, but we've got plenty of time to get the presentation done. So picture this. You're new into your job, maybe an entry-level position. This happens on a very important call with the CEO and CFO. You are frazzled. You're just like, oh my goodness. And then a story that you can tell in your mind is like, they're going to think I'm incompetent. They're never like, these are the stories I can be telling myself right now. Ginger's never going to ask me back. Oh my God, I've embarrassed myself in front of all these people. And so a large part of what imposter syndrome is really the stories that we tell ourselves, right? And we heard Rachel speak about that, those stories, the authenticity. While you do want to be authentic, right? We want to be competent as well. But we also want to be human, right? And things like this happen. So in that moment, I kind of use laughter. We kind of related. Things like this happen. It is not a reflection of who you are, your skill set, and what you do. But a lot of the times in our minds, we tell ourselves these stories, right? And we get ourselves off rocker and we start to believe these stories. And that's what seeps in. And that is what is the key that we're talking about today is imposter syndrome, right? So on the agenda, what is imposter syndrome? What does it look like? What is fact? What is fantasy? And what can you do about it? Okay. So we're going to get into that. Okay. So is this you, right? We kind of tackle some things, but I want us to kind of sit with it for a little bit and just ask yourself the question. In the chat, you can put a quick why if you relate or in if you don't. Is this you? I attribute my success to luck or timing rather than my own skills and talents. I worry that others will find out that I'm not as competent or capable as they think I am, right? That could totally be me in this moment, right? I've unknowingly deceived people into thinking I'm good enough for this job, right? They're going to find out I'm an imposter, right? I feel undeserving of my success, right? At any moment, I will be exposed as a fraud, right? Do I even deserve to be here in these rooms, right? And thank you for those that put in the chat if you related to this, right? So start there. Is this you? Okay. The next question I'm going to ask is, are you alone? Okay. There's a lot of us that are in this room today. Are you alone? We just asked the question while Ginger and I were trying to figure out what's going on with these slides. It's happened to the best of us. It's happened to all of us, right? Where we realize that we're not alone. We all have bad days. We all go through things. Technology messes up, right? So thankfully, I was able to answer this question and show it to you guys in real time. No, I'm not alone. We're human. Things happen. Okay. But we also want to know who else suffers. And sometimes some of the greatest people that we know, and again, it's Women's History Month, we're just coming off Black History Month, Maya Angelou. We all know her as a world-renowned poet, author, civil rights activist. And this is a quote that she said, in all of her greatness, all of the things that she has accomplished, she said, I have written 11 books, but each time I think, uh-oh, they're going to find out now. I've run a game on everybody and they're going to find me out, right? So even the greatest, and we've heard different quotes like this from different people, but we're focused on women, right? Charlotte women leaders. Even the greatest at times feel like I'm an imposter. They're going to find me out. What am I going to do? Right? So again, we're not alone in this. Okay. So now we're going to pivot to what is imposter syndrome? What is the mask that we all put on? Right? And do we need to put that mask on or should we take it off? Okay. So what is imposter syndrome? This actually started in the 1970s. Two psychologists coined the term when they were looking at women coming into the workforce, right? 1970s, right? And what was going on with women in corporate America and mental health and things of that nature. So it's a fairly new term. But when you think of imposter syndrome, it's feelings of self-doubt, inadequacy, incompetence, and surprisingly, it's most common among high-achieving people. So it's safe to say that the majority of us in this room on this call right now, and people that we know, have dealt with feelings of imposter syndrome, very common, especially among women. It can occur at different points in a career. So it's kind of like a faucet with an on and off switch, right? Sometimes it rushes over us and sometimes it doesn't. It's not something that stays, right? But it also impacts both genders, so male and female. And we're going to talk about how men play into this and the differences there. Okay. I pulled a study from KPMG. Okay. Really well-renowned consulting firm, and they did a study recently on imposter syndrome in female executives. All right. And I found these stats to be surprising, right? 75% of people, women, sorry, I mean, not say people, female executives, personally experienced imposter syndrome at some point in their career, right? The next slide just highlighted that, right? The last slide that we saw. 85% of female executives believe imposter syndrome is commonly experienced by women in corporate America. Again, corporate America, high achieving, no surprise there. 74% of female executives believe male colleagues do not experience females of self-doubt as much as females leaders do, right? They feel like women experience it, men don't. And then 81% of those studied, again, female executives, believe they put more pressure on themselves not to fail than men do, right? Again, we talk about that pressure. I even opened up about it. I come from a family of trailblazers. I'm a trailblazer. Pressure, pressure, pressure. I know some of you in the room have heard of the helicopter parenting and everybody gets a trophy. And with social media and society, there's just so much pressure on us. But I feel like a lot of that, again, befalls on the women. And the study proves that. And we're going to get into why in a second, okay? What does it look like, okay? So imposter syndrome in corporate America specifically looks like this. I know you guys have probably seen this study. I know I have. Why women don't apply for jobs unless they're 100% qualified for it. Let that sit for a second. Women are more likely to apply for jobs they are 100% qualified for. You know, when you see the job description, right? And there are probably some HR folks in the room who will be able to corroborate what I'm saying. It's a wish list, right? A job description when you apply for a job is a wish list. We want our ideal candidates to hit all of these points and do all of these things, right? But we know that they're willing to work with you, right? When I go into interviews, I always go in as a consultant. Like, this is what you need me to do. This is why I'm here, right? Okay. A man will look at that same job description on LinkedIn, Monster, Indeed, wherever, and he will apply for a job that he's 60% qualified for. So he will look at all the bullet points, and 6 out of 10, he will say, oh, I can do this. He will learn on the job. Whereas a woman will look at those bullet points and say, oh, if I only meet 9 out of the 10 criteria, I can't apply, right? That's happened to me. I've lived through that. I've overcome that. And I know some women probably on the call have as well. And you know what's even more surprising? And I know you guys have heard this before. Women, generalizing studies, will apply for a job that they're 100% qualified for and will not negotiate their salary. Right? We already get paid, 40, 50 cents on the dollar less than a man. So we're overqualified in most of our positions and we're underpaid. Whereas a man because they're just confident creatures, right? The audacity of men, right? Will apply for a job they're 60% qualified for and negotiate their salary, right? So most men are working in jobs that, again, they're underqualified for and overpaid for, right? Very common, right? And these studies are coming out now, and that relates to the imposter syndrome and what we've just seen in the previous slide. So again, it's lack of faith in myself, in my skill set. It's fear of failure. It's a blind adherence to the rules, a misunderstanding of the hiring process, right? I said a job description is a wish list. This is the perfect thing they hope they find, and they normally don't find it, but they can work with you, right? And so a man normally knows that he's going to learn on the job, he's going to learn on the fly, right? He's gonna perform and meet expectations. Whereas just that fear of not being enough is so innate in us sometimes as women that again it leads to imposter syndrome. Okay. So we'll delve into a little bit further. Okay, what does that look like even more? It could be a vicious cycle of anxiety, fear of failure, a strong need to be perfect, right? An unwillingness to internalize positive feedback, a fear of success. And sometimes that's where micromanaging comes in, right? And there's a lot of studies about men and women, and as far as who micromanages the most when it comes to having a manager. And I bet you guessed it, women micromanage more than men in certain roles, right? Because of that control factor, right? Because of the need to be perfection, right? So that can even bleed out into how you perform as a leader, right? How you lead your team, okay? So what is fact, right? Because again, this is titled The Imposter Syndrome, Fact or Fantasy. So what is fact? A lot of it is science, guys. A lot of it is science. A lot of it is stress. A lot of it is physical and emotional effects, relationships. A lot of it can be childhood trauma as well. And a lot of it can be the fact that we've grown up in families that stress achievements, right? And so we want to live up to that, right? So a lot of it can be science, especially now in today's society, we're learning more and more about mental health and how that impacts things and the brain and chemicals and how that works. So it is a real thing, right? Just again, stress. We live in such a stressful society. Relationship issues, childhood trauma, finding outside help to deal with those again can contribute to imposter syndrome. But again, we find that women are more a victim of that than men are, right? Men kind of just push through. So what can we learn from that? Like, what is fantasy? The fantasy of it really is unreached potential, right? And fear, okay? Fear to me is an acronym that I learned a long time ago, is false evidence appearing real. It's stories that you're telling yourself, right? And I'll go back to the beginning of this presentation. I could say, Ginger's never going to call me back. Oh my God. Like I messed it up. I'm just so embarrassed. I'm never going to be the biggest key. I'm never going to be Oprah now. I'm never going to go on like a speaking tour. I'm never going to be Michelle Obama. Again, being careful of the stories that you tell yourself and what are the validity behind them, right? Who said that? Is that really true? That is the fantasy part, right? And really being in control of your mind and the stories that you tell yourself, again, because fear is false evidence appearing real. And this is a quote that I pulled that really hit home to me is, you are words on paper. So again, be careful what stories you tell. Again, Rachel talked about that, stories, authenticity. Again, stories. I feel like that should be the key word for today's session, right? Be careful of the stories you tell yourself. You are enough. You can do the job or they wouldn't have hired you. You are a leader. You do have the skills, right? So I wanted to stress that. And then we'll go into, again, what can you do about it? How did we get here? And I've talked about that a little bit, just me personally, right? Being authentic, early family influences. Okay. I came from trailblazers. Okay. So I have pressure to also blaze a trail in my career, right? And that could be the same for you, whatever that looks like. Messages about success and failure, missed in labels. Sometimes it can be an unsupportive company culture. You not feeling valued. Again, Rachel talked about being able to promote yourself, getting over the stories that you told yourself and being able to promote yourself so that you can be seen, right? That's something that you have to do, right? And if you're doing those things and promoting yourself and the company culture is not being supportive, it's time to move on, right? Decision to pursue an alternative path, right? Being the first in your family to meet a goal, career goal, whatever that looks like for you. Society, social media. It's so hard, right? You look on LinkedIn, oh, she's VP of this, oh, she got this job, or she got this. Why am I not where I want to be in my career? We're comparing ourselves all the time. And so that's why I encourage people to take a break. It is a marathon, it's not a race. And I know you guys have heard that before, right? You run your own race. And success doesn't have to look the same for everybody, right? And the pressure to represent your group, right? You can see me, right? I'm an African American, right? And so a lot of people from different races kind of have a pressure. I have to be the first in my family to do X, Y, and Z, or I really have to represent my race, my people, my culture, my identity to different people and groups. So again, it's the pressure you're putting on yourself, but is it really warranted? Again, ask yourself those questions, right? And so what can you do about it? You can sit with it. That's the first thing to overcome imposter syndrome, is just acknowledging that it's there. In this moment, I feel incompetent. In this moment, I feel like I'm not enough. In this moment, I feel like I can't apply to that job because, again, I don't know what I'm doing. And then talk yourself out of it and say, no, I can do this. I can get that job. I can take on that project. I can promote myself to my boss. I can do those things. So first, it's acknowledging what's going on with you, right? Especially if there's no evidence of it, right? Like we can't play dumb, right? If you got a PIP, you guys know what that is, or performance review, or your coworkers are giving you negative feedback, there's some evidence there. So we're gonna have to deal with some things. But if you have no evidence of that and people are telling you that you are enough, you're doing well, again, you see on the slide, accept external validation. People are saying you're doing well, you're doing a great job. Accept that. Say thank you. Say yes, I am, right? It feels good, right? To be acknowledged. Don't cower in the corner and say, I'm not enough. Oh, no, I mean, somebody else helped me on that project. I really didn't spearhead that idea, right? It's taking control of your narrative and your story, right? But first, it starts within. And I know that sounds cheesy, but it's the truth, right? And being able to share your feelings with others and find a support group, owning your success, what I talked about, being careful of your inner critic, and again, evaluating your environment. So sometimes that's like, hey, my company's not being supportive. It's making me feel like an imposter. I need to move on, right? And so really it's just about doing a self-check-in. Like we all have jobs where we have to do a one-on-one or weekly one-on-ones, especially working from home, right? With our superiors, with our managers, we're checking in with other people when it comes to working on projects. But sometimes it's just as important to check in with yourself and to see how you are feeling, right? And so I just wanted to leave with that. And again, Ginger, thank you so much for asking me to speak about this, and Shelly about this, because this is something I've had to overcome, being the first in my field and many things that I do. It's a lot of pressure, right? But again, I had to understand that Shelly and Ginger wouldn't have asked me to give this presentation if I wasn't capable, right? I've done paid speaking engagements, right? But the technology, it worked. I wasn't embarrassed on stage, but I've had this experience. I'm valued, I'm valuable, and so are each and every one of you. So as we start the new month off and as we go into Women's History Month, it's all about us and being leaders and trailblazers that I hope each and every one of you are. I just want us to understand, again, where imposter syndrome comes from, how we can overcome it and take control of it as well. And I pray that for everyone on this call. And on that note, I only have 3 minutes left, even with the technical difficulties. And I just wanted to say thank you so much and believe in yourself. So thank you.
Hey, my friend, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, be sure to rate, review, and share your biggest takeaway. And if you're wanting more, you can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. You can also get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or networking group near you. Or if you just need to access your membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Because here at Women Leaders Association, we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. That's all for today, my friends. Bye for now.